Hey everyone, so you saw the B-roll. Now I'm going to kind of go into the layout of this case, the build itself, how I feel about the case, how I feel about the components I decided to use, and I also show you guys a bit of the temperature performance. In this case, there is a 540 millimeter MONSTA that is 85 millimeters thick. All right, so it's a bit too much of a black build inside, so it's kind of hard to tell. But this is all radiator. You'll notice that if I move the camera down, you'll see that I have fans at the bottom as well. That's because it is a push-pull setup, and these are the Silverstone 180 millimeter air penetrator fans, the new Pro ones. So it's a push-pull configuration, and I have cool air coming from the top, right? Coming in from the top, which is pretty much all clear. This is just a vent on top, and it comes through like this. So it's a bit opposite of heat rises. I mean, it doesn't really make a big deal, to be honest. So just to give you guys an idea, you can actually, if I zoom in here, sorry guys, one man cam here. If I zoom in here, you can see the fans. You can see that my distro is actually slightly elevated above the fans. I'm going to go into how that's mounted, but just to give you guys an idea first, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you can see this is the 540 MONSTA. And just to give you guys an idea of scale, this is a 360 radiator. So you can just kind of get an idea of how big that size difference is. Okay, so that's how small a 360 is compared to that radiator right there. Okay, so actually I'll move this aside. So let's first go over the case. The case is a Silverstone Alta F2, if that's not obvious from the title of the video. But this case comes in at about, I want to say $800, $850 right now on Amazon, but it's originally about $900 to $1,000. It is aluminum on top and this grill cover here, right? You can see that. But the rest of it is mostly plastic and steel, which may be a turnoff at this price point. When it comes to this kind of pricing, these are low production run cases. They're not made in mass numbers, and that kind of attributes to the price. But the case itself is very well made. It does have a kind of modern yet industrial looking design. You can kind of see right here, here's the front, it's glass. And the door that comes here is glass, and it's obviously tinted to block out these parts. At the bottom, it does have mesh vents. I did remove them so you guys could see the fans. But the build, my choice was just to put a big radiator at the bottom, but you do have other choices. By default, the case does support a radiator on the top up to a 480, and you can get up to a 560 down here. But I decided to just go with one huge radiator. I didn't want that stack look here, stack look here. It just looked too much for me. And I felt, given the part choices I was using and given the cooling capacity of this radiator, which I will show you guys, it is more than sufficient. Okay, so in the front, you can mount up to a 280, maybe a little bit more if you didn't have a radiator come all the way to the front, but that's kind of pointless. And if you notice, there's not much of a gap here for air to go in, so it doesn't really make sense there to put a radiator there either. So what I've done was I just cut a distro with the snowflake in it. A little bit hard to see, but that snowflake is the Silverstone logo. It's still a bit bubbly because I haven't ran the system much since I finished it, but the bubbles are clearing out. And just so you guys, I'm just pop the front cover real quick. Okay, you'll notice I do have a kind of a black acrylic cover here. I cut this cover here just so I would not have this area exposed. This is held on by double-sided tape because obviously my drain is right behind this part. So if you didn't have this piece here, you will be able to see the front of the radiator and the drain when you put the glass on. And that's why I did mine like so, because I didn't want to have any exposed radiator caps, etc. I just wanted something super clean. So that's why mine looks like that. As for the distro itself, I don't know how well this is going to come across, but I will zoom in here. Sorry guys, I hate doing this, moving and shooting at the same time, but one man here. So this is, these are some 3D printed tabs. I have one on each corner in the front that's holding it up into this position. And obviously the fittings are attributing to holding it up, but holding it up with just fittings is not exactly safe, right? So especially since I'm moving this around. And in the rear, I do have another bracket that's going to be really hard to see on camera because it's super dark in the corner. I do have a bracket in the rear also holding this distro in this position. So I have a secure bracket there, 2 securing brackets in the front, along with the fittings themselves, holding this distro bar into position. The distro bar is about 95 millimeters thick, right? The fan space hub in the middle is about 80 millimeters. So with the gap and the fairly narrow width of the distro plate itself, I do have sufficient airflow going through. All right, so now let's look at loop components. This is an EK DDC AM5. Okay, it is the nickel finish. This has a block and pump built in one. The only thing about these pump blocks is that they can be a little bit hard to fill because you have a very small reservoir in the block itself, and often in mounting positions like this where it's not laying flat even, because the pump is actually facing down. I don't know how to say this, but the pump back is here and the pump head is there, so it's actually facing down. So it's kind of hard to fill, and it will airlock. So a trick to filling it, I'll post a photo of how I'm actually doing it, is how I did it actually, is I attach a reservoir to this port and I fill it. And even then, you might still get the pump going, you might need to take like a leak tester and just pump some pressure in there to kind of force the water through the airlock. I've had to do that more than once for this pump block. I had to do it for the Intel version as well. And yeah, but other than that, it works great. I don't know about the video, you can't hear that thing. It is the loudest thing in this loop though, but it is running at full speed. But unless I'm looking to hear it, I don't hear it. These fans are super quiet. But yeah, moving on. So from the block, it comes out to this heat killer GPU block here. All right. So this is the heat killer 4090 block for Strix Tough. It is probably the best performing water block you can buy for the money. My delta was about 15 to 16 degree max at about a 500 watt board power draw. Okay. The only block that is better than this is the Optimus, but that by like 1 degree. The question is, do you really want to spend $400, $450 with shipping versus $250 shipped from like Titan Rig for 1 degree? I don't think so. And the Optimus block, it looks really nice in pictures, but when you get it in person, it's got these horrid 4 squares on it that you just cannot unsee. But this is the version that comes in chrome. It also comes in black, and it does come in for the 4080 Strix as well, which I don't think, I mean, if you're into blocking 4080s, why not? And it also comes for the Founders Edition. Unfortunately, those are the only 2 cards that they do support, but it is an extremely well-made block, very high quality, very good performance. I'm not saying any of this because they sent it to me or something. I bought this myself. I'm just speaking the truth out here. And then it comes out to that radiator port in the rear. Then it comes this radiator port in the front, and it comes all the way back up to the front itself, where the snowflake reservoir is. Kind of, guys, I have to keep adjusting the brightness. And it comes out and it comes back into the CPU block. And speaking of where we are right now, let's talk about this screen. Now that we're at PC part component selection. This, if you guys can't tell, is the X670e Godlike for AMD. It is a very pretty board. You see when the light hits it, right? The reason I picked the X670e is simply because if you follow my Instagram, you'll notice I also have the Z790 version of this board. And the reason I chose not to use the Z790 version of this board is really simple. Because I don't want to take my motherboard out in 6 months when Z790 becomes completely obsolete. Z690 was already obsolete. Not obsolete, but like dead socket, right? And then they refreshed to Z790. We got some little bit of extra I/O, still dead socket, right? So now with the 14th gen release, which is pretty much a 1300 KS, some manufacturers did refresh the board itself for the Z790s, like the Encore, the Godlike Max. All these boards, it's really because as an Intel partner, you can't have the partner launch something and then you do nothing. I mean, that's kind of how it is. But okay, back to this board. This is the screen that comes with this motherboard. It's the same screen that comes with the Z790 Godlike, and it's still trash, just like the Z690 screen was trash. Now, this time, They did fix the software a little bit so that it's not as crashy, it's more smooth, but it still does the same dumb shit it did before. As in, like, I only have it displaying my logo right now because if I wanted to display temperature, let's say it would display CPU temperature, okay? It would say CPU 30C degree. So 3 lines just to display temperature. And you can display 1 temperature stat at a time, which is beyond stupid, right? And then on top of that, it does things like monitor status. And what is GPU status, you may ask? The name and brand of your GPU. So RTX 4090 would just scroll across, and that's it. Okay, it still has a touchscreen function where you can touch it, and then it still has some lag. I guess if I want to look at the time, I don't know why you would want a timer there. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do I need that, right? So even if I had this on my desk, I don't think I need a timer. It still has advanced. Keep poking at it. It still has this lag. Apparently, I need to use a calculator function on this. Why does it need to have a calculator function? This is the kind of crap I'm talking about. It's still stupid. It's still useless. But since it came in the box and I wanted to put something here because it's blank space, that's it. All right. So the memory is Asgard Braggy. They're chromish. That's why I use them. I'm hoping they come out with some higher capacity kits because 32 gigabyte is really not enough for what I do. I am using a 7950X non-3D in this build simply because I do a lot of workloads that are not gaming, and therefore it doesn't make sense for me as an overall performance-wise to use an X3D chip for this build. So I will be most likely taking these out and putting 48 gigabyte capacity modules in there or something like that. The board itself then, I've had no issues with the BIOS. Everything runs as it should. All the BIOS settings work as I intend them to. I'm not using the onboard fan control. I am using Aqua Computer. I think it's a Quadro I have in the back there. So that's controlling all my temperatures. So I'm not, I can't speak to the fan control for MSI right now, but in the previous years, it has worked out for me very well when I set it in the BIOS. Okay. One more thing I just want to note that these are cable mod cables. And there is one more thing about this riser that some folks may be wondering, why do you have a shiny riser? These are Ava risers. I buy them from Amazon. I prefer them simply because they have a very good bend radius. And what I'll do is I'll take one out of the box now and show you guys. So mind a little bit of noise. So this is a 30 centimeter one. Okay. You'll notice why I like these is because one, it's not coated in this thick rubber, so they're very flexible, right? See that? And I can mash them together if I need, and you know you can easily flip them right back. And the other reason I like them is because if you look at the 90-degree bend, they even have ones that are more sharp of a 90, but you cannot do this with most risers. You see that? There is almost no bend space behind the 90-degree itself, and that is very important when you're trying to save space. Like my PSU covers right behind that block. So this is why I'm using one of these. I highly recommend these cables. They're extremely flexible. They're very durable. I've stretched the crap out of a 1,000 millimeter one. They do come in black and white. They are a bit on the expensive side once you get to 40 centimeters. Not 40 centimeters. Once you get to 40 centimeters, they start becoming about 80, 90 bucks. So they go up to like $120, I want to say, for the 100 centimeter one, but they do work very well. Let's see what else I want to bring. Yeah, so pretty much the case itself, I like the case. If you want to see a good review of this case, I would say check out Stuart from GGF Events. He made a video on this case. He is the #1 guy to watch when it comes to cases and water cooling on YouTube, period. No one else will go into the depth that he does when he does reviews for a case for water cooling. He'll shoot up to like 600 shots of B-roll, okay, just to explain. All right, nobody else is doing that. All right, so definitely watch his video on this case if you want to learn more about water cooling support. This is actually his sample from Silverstone that he sent over to me because I said I wanted to play with it. After having played with it, I'm keeping it, and this will be my daily from now on. So thank you. yeah, so with that said, I'm gonna bring up what you'll see now is some screen recording of temperatures, etc. So you get an idea of performance for this build with this cooling of just one giant radiator. Other than that, yeah, so let's take a look at that.
So here you'll see that I have the GPU and CPU stretched at the same time in firm arc. Over the course of this about 17 minutes, you'll see that my water temperature has spiked about 7 degrees and it seems to stay there. Now, I've ran this for much longer than this time frame, so I'm well aware of the temperature delta, but this is a worst case scenario. Um, of course, seeing the CPU at 95, that's just pretty much how AMD 7000 series functions. It goes up to 95 degrees and then it boosts as high as it possibly can. So with that said, thanks for watching, stay safe, and take care.